we have all seen ads where the story is really memorable, but you just can't remember which brand it was for.
One problem that I can already see is, there was a time when all of us could sit in front of the TV and watch these memorable ads. That's not the case anymore, right?
At the end of the day, is the intended message coming through? Is the ad actually engaging the consumer?
We have trained people in 18 cities, equipped them with handhelds and with microphones to record audio data. The questionnaire is standardized and translated into all the major languages. The AI engine is also trained on all the major Indian languages.
The challenge for the marketer is first 3 or 4 seconds, if you are not able to hold the attention of the viewer, then he is going to skip you. So enough has to happen.
We talked about different categories in terms of your favorite ads. Are there any like broad themes? Like how does advertising even work? Hi everyone, welcome to Crisp Insights podcasts. We have one more exciting edition for you. This time we are going to talk about advertising development. It's a topic which is very close to us because we have all been involved in it for a very long time. I'm going to introduce my friends at Crisp Insights, partners Ritesh Ghoshal, Kumud Ghoshal and Tanmay Jaswal. We have a long history in research, but there is much more to us than just research. So I will let my partners introduce themselves to you guys. Why don't we start with you, Ritesh?
Sure. I think I have occupied pretty much every chair at the table of marketing. So I've been a media planner, I've been a market researcher, I've been a brand manager, a consumer insights head, and then finally a CMO. Among the more interesting assignments I handled was, launching Minute Maid in India, managing Thumbs Up, and also launching Tata Docomo, which was like, 3 months from the day we joined and started thinking about it, 3 months we were in the market. And it was quite a rocking launch for a while.
Yeah, Kumud.
So I have been in qualitative research for like decades now. I don't want to exactly say how many.
And we started our career almost together.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing I did and which was really interesting was account planning. So working with the creatives and actually being part of the teams which develop ads, which as a researcher I was testing, was a great experience and exposure. So yeah, that's my background. Tanmay?
Yeah, so I started in research and I was part of the team that started advertising testing for Millward Brown in India.
Yeah, remember those days.
Yeah, they were very interesting times. And then I was sent to Singapore to staff up the Singapore office, which was a new office there. But then, just like Ritesh, I have kind of been in the entire value chain of marketing. So, I have worked in Coke, first in research, then in strategy, then managing brands, in ICI Paints, managing, so I was CMO there. I worked in Shell, doing local India roles as well as global roles, first in marketing and then heading the business. So I've kind of seen, the problem of growing brands from all sides, a 360-degree view.
Yeah, and since we're going to talk about advertising today and specifically the development of advertising and all the rigor that goes into it, why don't we start with the memorable ads that you guys even remember? We obviously, without dating ourselves, maybe it will be nice to start off with ads that stayed with you for a long time.
So the ad that really stays with me is the iconic, Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola ad.
Right.
I thought you were not supposed to talk about your own ads.
That's not my ad. It's sort of slightly before my time. Yeah. So Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola, Amir Khan playing different stereotypes of from Hindi movies established by Hindi movies, and just focusing on the refrain of Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola.
What about you, Kumud?
So for me, the Cadbury's ad, the girl, waltzing down the stadium and
That cricket,
dancing and doing
yeah.
her thing. That really stands out. And what kind of I mean, it's an aspiration in all of us to give in to our spontaneous urges, and there you see that girl doing it. It just is a very strong connect at a very emotional level, and kuch khas hai. That soundtrack is also pretty amazing. It's kind of stayed with me for, I mean, like forever now. Yeah.
An IPL fan, I take it. Cricket season, so this was top of mind for you.
Not exactly an IPL fan, but even then it kind of is top of mind for me. Yeah.
What about you, Tanmay?
So I remember this Havells ad for Wires, Shock Laga, in which you have these really entertaining, slice of life kind of scenes, but it always ends with this somebody, at the receiving end of a shock from a faulty switch or a faulty wire or whatever. And then you have those, hair going all over kind of thing. So that's really memorable, but it also, I think, worked very well for me because I kind of managed to associate Havells with, something that prevents something like that from happening. So
also, I think the interesting thing was that they, got an invisible category to become very visible.
yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you don't think about wires, right?
Yeah.
They are the last thing in your mind, and
Yeah.
yet those ads kind of just got it all so out there for you. So amazing ad, yeah.
And the interesting thing also was that all of us mentioned a particular phrase from the ads which we remember. In fact, I was thinking while we were discussing all this, a friend of mine had called me like a couple of days ago, and he was on the phone. He put the call on hold. He says, 2 minutes, and he was just going to talk to somebody else on his side, and 2 minutes, and instinctively my mind went Maggie.
Yeah.
So you kind of this is advertising, right?
Yes.
So we talked about different categories in terms of your favorite ads. Are there any like broad themes? Like how does advertising even work?
So I think every piece of advertising, there are three parties involved, three stakeholders.
Okay.
There is the creative guy, there is the brand manager, and then there is the audience.
Yeah.
The brand manager has a message, a commercial message, something which he believes if transmitted will create business for him. The creative has the job of translating that message into an interesting story.
Yeah.
Because the audience has no interest in consuming commercial messages from a brand. Right, he is usually in the act of doing something which is more interesting to him, whether it is scrolling, doom scrolling on Instagram or watching IPL on television. It is the job of the creative to find an interesting packaging, an engaging story, which will sort of slip in that commercial message and get it through to the audience.
Right.
And that's really how advertising works.
And sometimes that can get overboard, right? Because we have all seen ads where the story is really memorable, but you just can't remember which brand it was for. So that's when the creative element kind of starts running on its own without taking the brand along with it. So it's quite important to also make sure that the brand is central in the storytelling as well.
In fact, going back to the examples all of us talked about, all of them have two things in common. There is a brand which you remember, there is a message which you remember, and actually that message is the commercial message for that brand.
Right.
Thanda matlab Coca-Cola was the intent. Maggie in 2 minutes was the intent. Wires that don't catch fire was the intent, right? And being able to wire that message and the brand into the story is really the art of the creative.
So I get the fact that we see the end product. We talked about very memorable ads. One problem that I can already see is there was a time when all of us could sit in front of the TV and watch these memorable ads. That's not the case anymore, right? So what are the challenges that marketers are facing today in terms of making advertising?
I think there are challenges and then there are opportunities both.
Right.
One, audiences are more fragmented than ever before. So the ad Kumud was talking about, it also had the advantage of playing in Chitrahar in the 90s where there was nothing else to do.
Right.
You had the attention of the audience and you could just deliver the message. Of course, you still have to do a great job of storytelling. Today, and maybe I think a good example is maybe a year or 2 years ago, Cadbury's did the same thing with a guy, in the position of the fan. It sort of sank without much of a impact. Not because it was not made as well, but because the audiences are so fragmented. How do you get the story out today is a big challenge.
Yeah.
When you look at digital, it allows you to sharpshoot on audiences, but it also means as a brand often my task is to get someone to change his mind, right? Just as advertising, the consumer is not in the mood to consume advertising, I have to get through to him. Same thing with consumer behavior. The consumer has a set schedule, set routine. He's got heuristics around what he does in his day. When he sabun kaun sa leta hai, kitne baje nahata hai, everything is sort of wired into him, right? The marketer is usually interested in changing either his attitude or his behavior, right? Media is also one of those things. So how do I break through the walls the person has put around himself with this entire thing of Instagram, YouTube, where he's choosing to consume what he wants to consume, Netflix, he's consuming what he wants to consume. How do I get through to him? That is a new challenge which has really emerged.
And different formats have a different kind of deliverable that is being expected from the advertising, right? So for example, there's a lot of advertising that's going on YouTube now. So in YouTube you also have the feature of skipping ads. So therefore the challenge for the marketer is first 3 or 4 seconds, if you are not able to hold the attention of the viewer, then he is going to skip you. So enough has to happen right in the beginning in order for you to be able to at least allow the film to deliver what it is trying to deliver.
Right.
So that's the other other challenge from a format perspective.
Right.
At the same time, the production cost for advertising has really come down thanks to great camera phones, digital, editing softwares, etc. The time and the money involved in creating great advertising has come down, which means the marketer for the same budget can cater to multiple audiences with multiple stories.
But at the same time, I think it's still, very important to think about what the consumer, how the consumer is receiving the communication. Because yes, production costs have come down and you can quickly make an ad and, without even checking with the consumer, you can go out and play it. But the marketer, the brand manager, the creative guy, they come from a very different world. And I say this because, they are far more brand literate, I would say, or advertising literate than the consumer is.
Right.
And also they're very close to the category and the brand. So they may think that, I am actually pushing a message which is this, and this is what, the intended consumer is going to replay as. But is that going to really happen or not is always a question that needs, some interrogation.
Actually, that's such a great point, because I have been in agency meetings as a client where the agency is pitching like 6 or 7 ideas, out of which 3 ideas I don't understand. And I am a fairly, observant and I can comprehend many things. But if the creative director has to walk me through exactly how that piece of advertising is working, then clearly there is a problem.
Right.
See, one way to see the entire chain of advertising development is sort of like that thing of Chinese whispers, game little kids used to play. So the brand manager creates a brief which has what he wants to say in it. It goes through various structures in the agency, including planning, to come to the creative guy. The creative guy then makes a story, then it comes back to the brand manager. After it passes through all of this, it goes to the the production house which makes a film, and then that's the final product that the consumer gets to see. So there is a lot of chance for the ball slipping at some point, and therefore the end product being at variance from what the starting point was.
Yeah, and I also wanted to pick on the point that you made, Kumud, which is about the brand and the people surrounding the brand being slightly insular from the consumer.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we have all been in research, and for us, consumer is king. What role does consumer research have to play in this whole process?
So, at the end of the day, is the intended message coming through? Is the ad actually engaging the consumer? Those are the kind of questions which get answered, before you actually spend money on and time on producing a film. And these get answered very well through consumer research. And specifically, we wanted to talk about script check, which is it's a specific product which comes into play very early in the life cycle of a creative.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit in detail about script check. So
Cassie, just before that, I just wanted to just underline that point about how decisions on advertising should be taken versus how they end up being taken. And how they end up being taken, a lot of excuses are there about how you don't have time, or budgets are blown already and so on. And मैंने दिखा तो लिया इतने लोगों को, right? Yeah, my CEO likes it, and therefore it's fine, and let's just go ahead and so on. But in the end, like what Kumud was saying, the people that marketers are in touch with or are part of their circle of life are a very different profile normally than the people you are aiming the advertising at. So to include the voice of the consumer in how that advertising is being developed is very, very important.
But one problem that we have, or maybe clients have articulated to us, is the fact that research itself can be a laborious, time-consuming process. So how do we alleviate that problem?
So the script check protocol that Kumud was talking about, see, ultimately, like we just discussed, what is this, an ad? It's a story. The consumer is interested in the story,
right?
And it is the task of the creative to wire the brand and the message into the story, right? So what the script check does is it does not require you to spend any time or effort or money creating a stimulus, okay, which in the traditional research world itself is a project, right? So you have an idea, you narrate the idea into a camera, and we will take that idea to consumers and get the consumer to play back what they make of the idea, and we will see whether the idea is traveling the way we intended it to, whether the brand is being replayed as part of the story, whether the message and the story are interacting in the way intended, and if all is fine, we are ready with the findings in 5 working days, right? So this is how we have sort of collapsed the entire process. Oh, and by the way, we don't need to rely on content analysis or coders and code lists, etc. thanks to AI. So data is captured as audio, digested into text, converted to data, and in a couple of hours time we are ready with everything you would want to make sense of the ad.
So let me, sorry, I was just going to say, let me play devil's advocate here, and we have heard this pushback from a lot of clients, especially if you are pitching to advertising agencies, and they'll say, how can you test just on the basis of an arithmetic? How can you test for execution elements, and how we are going to put so much finesse and so much production quality into the film, and that is really going to sway the consumer and deliver the kind of message that we are trying to deliver. So
we have actually empirically tested this premise. We have taken an ad, converted it back to a idea, tested the idea. It tests as well as the finished ad did. We have also tested an idea through its journey from just being a narration to a finished film, and looked at that data as well. And guess what? There is no difference. A great soundtrack, a celebrity, can move up the extent of engagement. So Shah Rukh Khan coming and saying, dandruff bhagaye, Shah Rukh Khan will have more eyeballs, right? But the fundamental construct of the film will not change. So does the, like I said, the construct of the film is what is testing. There is a story, there is a brand, there is a message. Do they fit together the way we intended it?
And sometimes the turnaround time on advertising or the results of an advertising, how it has played in terms of consumer acceptance, is also isn't that shrinking a lot, which means that the onus is on our operational process of how script check is run. Could you talk a little bit more about the operational process of it?
So it's actually very streamlined.
Yeah.
Right. We have a couple of operations partners lined up to do offline or online field work. We get the stimulus from the client recorded as a narration, or it could be an animatic, finished film, whatever. We can test anything because it's a idea we are testing.
Right.
Within 12 hours of the stimulus being received, the questionnaires are being served to respondents. We cover the sample within 2.5 days, and like I said, the entire analysis is AI driven. That takes hardly any time. Time goes in, experts like us spending time with the data to make sense of matlab kya nikal raha hai. Okay, so the assessment is where we still spend the same kind of time as we would have done, when Millward Brown days we were doing link tests or whatever, and then we are ready with the findings. So like I said, 5 working days is what our tag to clients is.
So Ritesh is obviously talking about the engine that already exists,
Right.
and it is able to churn out at this kind of speed. But there's a lot of work that has gone into building this engine as well, right? So whether it is in terms of standardization of questions, in terms of dedicated fieldwork teams in all the different locations, standardized translations that are already there, the analysis partners being able to collate data in real time and be able to put it through the AI engine, which is able to get the content analysis at our fingertips almost by the time the fieldwork is over.
Right.
So those are the kind of practices that we have deployed, so that the turnaround time from brief to findings is a week.
Good point. We have trained people in 18 cities, equipped them with handhelds and with microphones to record audio data. The questionnaire is standardized and translated into all the major languages. The AI engine is also trained on all the major Indian languages, so that we are able to take the audio data regardless of the the SEC or the profile of the audience,
Right.
and deliver to the timelines we talked about.
Excellent. Any other hot takes on script check that we might not have touched in the operational process or the engine around it?
So it's a good mix of qual and quant because a lot of the responses are taken as open ends. So you don't. I mean, obviously it's not a full-fledged qual, but answering a lot of questions around why is the information being processed in a certain way are still addressed through those open ends. So it's a really good balance of qual and quant.
So what she's trying to say, if I were just to elaborate the way the AI works, so we have 3 key open-end questions. What was the ad trying to say? What sticks in your mind? And if you were narrating the story to a friend, what would it be? Okay. So you are trying to capture as much open-end, and this is pretty much the way you would do it in a qualitative exercise. Now where the AI comes in useful is I can do a cross-section across the 100 people interviewed. How many picked up what sequences and what linkages did they draw and so on and so forth. Or I can go into one guy's response or one cohort's response and look at it as if it's a qualitative exercise.
So I think the use case here is for those marketers who struggle with the time or who think that ideally they would have liked to have a robust enough sample to be able to say, okay, this seems to be working in my TG, but just have time to do maybe a couple of qual groups and so on and take decisions based on that. So it kind of addresses all those issues, because A, sample sizes are robust, B, you are getting, you know, almost a qual like feel on such a large sample size as well. So, you are able to get literally the best of both worlds, and it is able to turn around in a time which is shorter than let us say a typical qual research.
I think one additional use case is when you have multiple routes and you want to kind of, you know, say, you know, which one should I kind of invest more time and monies behind. Then at this stage itself, you can actually weed out the ones which are not doing as well and, you know, focus your energies on the winning one.
So, one more thing is, you know, sometimes especially agencies are very reluctant to get any kind of advertising ideas tested, because most testing methodologies believe in, you know, giving a pass or fail score. But script check is definitely you know, a friend of the agency, because here the intent is not so much as to say oh, this is not working or this is working, but to say what exactly is working in this and what are the areas in which it can be improved. So, in that sense it is a true aid to advertising development versus advertising evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all we are interested in is this idea, is this story making sense for the brand in terms of communicating the brand and the message. In fact, even the way we measure engagement, unlike, you know, other advertising research protocols, is we look at it as if it's a story, or it's a, you know, like a storybook or a movie for that matter. There are three key questions that the consumer, you know, chooses between two options. Is it the kind of story I want to finish, or I just want to let go of it in the middle? Is it the kind of story I want to discuss with my friends, narrate to people, or dekh liya, ho gaya, khatam hua? And finally, is it the kind of story I want to go back and consume again and again, or once was enough for me?
As you would deal with any
Absolutely,
content. Right?
absolutely. If you ask me, you know, I would look at a P.G. Wodehouse book like this versus maybe a Jeffrey Archer. You know, I'll be able to answer this question. If it comes to movies, I can watch Three Idiots any number of times, and there are so many other movies which I may have enjoyed while watching it, will never think of going back again.
Right.
Which is why it is such a great early stage you know, evaluation, because you know, at the stage of script itself you are able to make sense of whether the script is working or not, from an engagement perspective, you know, from a brand integration perspective, from an understanding perspective. So, you know, and typically in the advertising development process you do a, you know, many to one kind of or many to two kind of filtering anyway, but without any inputs from the consumer, right. You are just taking calls based on your experience or whatever, but here is an opportunity for you to do one sharp check with your target group and be able to say, okay, fine, these two have the most potential
In fact,
to carry
exactly,
forward.
you know, if the initial many to few screening is being done by the brand teams and even the advertising agencies, client teams or whatever, you know, when you are looking at experience, when you are looking at past, what has worked in the past, etc., you tend to recreate what has already worked.
Yeah.
If you want a fresh story to tell, and guess what, you know, fresh stories is what consumers you know, respond to with their attention, this is what you should be looking at.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of brands where, you know, one template refreshed with, you know, different situations, different actors, different you know, parts of the film.
Absolutely.
But the same story.
Thumbs up from the time the Chauhans were running the brand till now. It's all about, you know, एक ही बोतल बची है और मुझे चाहिए.
Just the celeb keeps changing.
Just the seller keeps changing.
Yeah.
So, I had one more question on you know, the fact that this is really the zamana of the digital ad, right, and you know, the results are instant, right. So, why should anybody be wanting to spend 5 days on getting results from?
I think that's a really good pushback from brand teams, because all of these social media platforms, they are all talking about how you can do A/B testing, right. So, you don't have to do any research. You can just see which is the winning route and just start putting all the money on that particular execution. So yeah, why?
See, I think there are two ways to answer this question. One is, you know, there are brands and then there are brands. Okay. There is a reason why, you know, some of the digital world brands like Amazon, Google, Facebook are all advertising on television. Incidentally, they are all also big users of consumer research to arrive at what to run on television.
Good point.
So that is one answer. Second thing is, there is a lot more to advertising. You know, like we were talking earlier, it's about, you know, figuring out what is the blocker. Is it an attitude? Is it a behavior? Is it a ingrained belief? And then nudging the consumer forward one step at a time, because you don't go from, you know, 0 to 1 in one shot. And that's what advertising does. A/B testing is essentially testing a behavior, a virtuous behavior, but it's just one behavior, right? So following the approach of A/B testing, a brand may end up doing 20 things on 20 days, right?
Right.
But that is not the way to build a sustainable, you know, brand proposition which will last for decades.
Yeah, it's not replicable.
It's not
Because you don't know what's working.
That's right.
Right? You are just sort of taking a shot in the dark, and you strike gold at the first go. You strike gold with another execution at the second go, but those two may be communicating something completely different. So there, what kind of brand building are you doing if you are adopting that kind of an approach?
Right. So what would be a good way for a marketer who's interested in getting more information, or how do they find out more about the product?
They get in touch. We will give our details, right, Phil, of this.
Famous last words.
See, I think it's a relatively new product, but already we are seeing a lot of traction from a few clients, and I think they'll be surprised at the cost as well. So I think we are looking forward to helping develop better advertising.
Yep, memorable ads like the ones we discussed right in the beginning of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yep. So there you have it, guys. I hope this was interesting for you as much as it was for me. We got to know a little bit about advertising development, but we also got to know about script check, a fantastic way for you to assess, you know, the quality of the ad and how well it will do. Hope this was useful. Please stay connected with us. Until next time, thank you, take care, and stay crisp. Bye-bye.